Welcome to Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and today is another episode in the series that I'm going to be doing about why people get out of prison and go back to the criminal lifestyle. This episode is going to be about the prison environment. And what do I mean when I say the prison environment? What's going on up in this place, right? That's what I mean. Everything that's going on in here, whether it be the inmates on inmates, inmates on officers, officers on inmates, this whole environment in here is what creates that recipe for people to not really have the time to focus on what they need to do to better themselves and become the best version of themselves in here and when they get out of prison, right? And now, in some situations, one of those elements of this environment is that a lot of guys end up in relationships with other men, things like that. You got to figure out when you first come into prison, right, what lane you're going to get in, okay? What do I mean by lane? When I say lanes, I'm talking about how you're going to go about surviving this experience, this prison experience, right? Some people decide to join gangs. Some people decide to become dope boys. Some people get deep into the church. Some people get involved with other men for protection. All of these types of things, right? But what's unique about all of these different elements of this environment is that none of them are conducive to you having time to focus on yourself and become the better version of yourself when you get ready to get out, or like I say, when you're in here, right? So with that said, most of the time people just don't focus on what's really going on with themselves. They don't have time. And what I find troubling about that is that for the most part, the prison system and the people that work in it, I don't know if they are not aware of what's going on or that they don't care what's going on. That's what baffles me, because one of the biggest contributors to this decadent, in my opinion, environment is how they treat the people that are in it. You know what I mean? That inhumane aspect of it, right? I want to share this story with you that might give you some insight into what I'm saying. It's a very subtle type of message that was sent in this, but this story is going to give you an example of the little small ways that you are chipped away at as far as your humanity is concerned, right? I was talking to a friend of mine one day, not too long ago. I'm not going to call his name, but I did ask him, could I share this story? And he was talking to me, but he told me he had a package coming in, right? And when I say package, I mean a legitimate package, no drugs, no nothing like that. I'm talking about he had a clothing package coming in that his family had ordered for him, like some t-shirts, boxer shorts, tennis shoes, stuff like that, right? So anyway, what he did, he caught it's an officer over the mail room that takes care of all of that, right? So anyway, this is one of those situations where we have people that, you can kind of talk to them at this place, right? So anyway, he caught the officer and he asked the officer, look, man, is there any way that you cannot write my number on the back of my shirt? Because when we get property in, they write our prison number big and bold right in the middle of the back of the shirt, like a basketball or a football jersey that has the name of the player on it. That's how they write our number on the back of it, right? Identifying us like that, right? So the officer turned and looked at him and said, why? Why do you not want me to write your number on the back of the shirt? And he said, because I'm a person. I'm a human being. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be identified like that. You see who I am. I don't understand why you have to write the number on the back of my shirt. So the officer looked back at him and said, well, I got to do it. I don't have a choice in that. And he said, well, if you got to do it, could you write it like at the bottom of the shirt, small, just so that people, don't have to see that? He said, it makes me feel a certain type of way, right? And I understood that when he was telling me that story. It's like he was trying in what way he could trying to reclaim his humanity. And this officer didn't understand that, or so it appeared anyway. Now, the day came when the package came in, and he went to pick up the package, and the officer, when he walked in, was joking with him, said, oh, mister, don't write my number on the back of my shirt, that type of thing, right? And he figured, oh, he's already written the number on my shirt, there it is, right? So when the officer was going through the bag and handing him the items one item at a time like they do, he picked up the shirt and looked at the back of the shirt, and it didn't have his number on it. And he told me that touched him, because that officer heard him. He heard what he was saying. But for the most part, they don't hear us when we say these things. They don't hear us. They don't see us as human beings anymore. So by them not seeing us as human beings, they treat us like we're less than human, animals, well, less than that. And it chips away at you. It chips away at you. It makes you feel like you don't really matter. So instead of focusing on the problems that you have, the problems that brought you to prison, whatever your crime was, you're more focused on trying to reclaim and maintain that small piece of yourself. That small piece of yourself, right? So you don't get to focus on trying to better yourself. You just want to maintain where you're at. And I think that's something that people need to pay attention to and look at, you know. And look, I'm not trying to be just down on the officers. It happens with inmate to inmate as well, you know. We do things to each other all the time that chip away at each other because we think this is how it's supposed to be. And it's not. It's not supposed to be that way. It shouldn't be that way. But we don't really take the time to look at each other and say, well, if I don't appreciate the officer, the staff, the people that run the prisons treating me like that, why am I okay with it when it's somebody that wears blue? Why am I okay with it when it's an inmate? Why am I okay with it when I'm doing it to somebody else, but I don't appreciate when somebody's doing it to me? We have to focus on those things. But those reasons, all those reasons that I gave you at the beginning of this episode that define this environment are reasons that people don't have the time to focus on who they are, what they need to do to better themselves, and to become the best version of themselves, right? Just giving you a little something to think about. You know, this has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. It's me, your boy, Joe T. I'm your host. And look here, what I always say at the end of my show, peace.